From our 22 News Broadcast Center, this is 22 News in Focus.
Good Sunday afternoon and welcome to 22 News in Focus. I'm Barry Krieger. The Center for Human Development is a nonprofit organization that provides a broad number of social and mental health services to more than 18,000 people in Western Massachusetts and Connecticut. Available programs address issues such as mental illness, addiction, trauma, and stress for all ages, from toddlers to the elderly. Today on 22 News in Focus, we'll be learning about two of their programs, Early Intervention Services for Children and the Cancer House of Hope. Joining me now to talk about early intervention, we have Cindy Napoli, the Early Intervention Program Supervisor, and Karen Wheeler, a developmental specialist and service coordinator. Thank you, both of you, for being here today.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure, thank you.
Just so we understand the clinical terms, what do we mean when we say early intervention?
Well, early intervention is a program that's designed for babies to children up to 3 years old, and we serve them in their homes, or if they need to be seen at daycare, we'll go out to the daycares to see the babies, but there's a whole certain qualification process.
Right. Where is your headquarters, so to speak, when you say you dispatch people or you see them in-house? Where is that?
Our headquarters is down on 342 Bernie Ave. In Springfield.
Springfield, yes. Of course. Okay. Can you explain a little bit about what the program does, early intervention?
Well, early intervention, children, as Cindy had said, can be referred to us at age 0 when they're first born. And they come into us either from a doctor they can be referred just by the parents, they can be referred from DCF, and they come forth to us, and we have a team, we have a system. There's a team that will go out and will do testing on the child after we've accumulated the initial information on the child, and that team will determine whether or not that child is eligible for early intervention.
Eligible or in need? In
need, right, eligible or in need, or at risk. There's factors like that that will indicate that they could be serviced by our team.
You talk about age 0, that's a newborn.
Yes, that's a newborn.
What kind of symptoms would be displayed by a newborn infant?
Well, the newborn referrals we usually get are two kinds. We have the babies that are exposed to drug in utero. They can either be diagnosed with
if the mother's addicted or something like that.
Yes, if the mother's addicted or for other reasons. We get those referrals usually right from the hospital, or DCF themselves will call us. And then there's another kind of condition that babies can be referred pretty young for, and that's called torticollis. And that's an actual condition in the neck where the muscles need to be stretched and strengthened, and by positioning the baby and things like that. So we go in and we evaluate the children and teach the parents how to do the stretching and accommodate their environment so that the baby can learn to develop properly and in alignment.
Would something like that be immediately obvious to a parent of a newborn?
No. Torticollis is something definitely that a pediatrician would refer for, but some of the symptoms that can happen, because so many babies are on their backs now, we're seeing more flat-headed children, so it's called plagiocephaly, and that's because the babies, if they're always on their back or if they're in a car seat, they can kind of get that neck tilt, and then it becomes an orthopedic issue because it becomes muscular. So the earlier we see those kids, the sooner they're in and out of therapy. It's really fun.
Yeah, well, I know you're being sort of sarcastic when you say it's really fun.
Oh, no, our whole job is fun.
Our whole job is fun, working with children.
Because you're working with kids.
Oh, yes, definitely.
Yeah.
Yes.
You mentioned that people, babies left on their backs can develop a flat head. I kind of thought that was a myth. That's true?
Oh my gosh,
yes.
Yeah, it's true.
Because the bones are so soft and forming?
Yep. The first 6 weeks of life, the bones in the head are supposed to be moldable and movable, and that's, the delivery process, it's necessary for that. And it has about 6 weeks to actually, the plates on the head, they're called, can move and get into shape. But if the baby is always in one position all the time, you actually can get a flat spot, and it can create facial asymmetry and muscle problems and things like that. So We've seen a rise in it with the Back to Sleep program, but it's so important to instruct the parents that back to sleep is the way babies need to sleep. But there's other things throughout the day that you can do to position them so that the heads are nice and round.
I don't know what you mean by back to sleep. There's something else that you mentioned that I want to go back to, but what do you mean the back to sleep program? What's that?
So the Back to Sleep program was something that the American Academy of Pediatrics brought out like in the 90s, where they found multiple studies that indicated that children have less of a degree of dying from SID, sudden infant death syndrome, if they're put on their backs to sleep. So the American Academy of Pediatrics instituted it, and so when babies are born in the hospital and when they go for their pediatrician checkup, it's back to sleep, tell me to play, so that when they're on their stomachs, they actually should be awake and playful.
Now I understand back to sleep is sort of a double meaning.
Yeah.
And that was what I was going to ask you about the SIDS thing, because parents are being advised not to let the baby sleep on their bellies.
Correct.
So of course more kids are going to be laid down on their backs to go to sleep.
Correct.
But back to sleep is just for sleeping, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
And then they put them on their bellies for playtime.
Yeah, and I think
Or
a lot of our
time.
a lot of our younger parents are parents who only hear back to sleep, back to sleep, back to sleep. They don't put them on their bellies, and so their necks aren't getting stronger, and they're not moving around. And as an OT, an occupational therapist, we actually see it carry out into the school-aged kids, because if they're not on their tummies, that's the one and only time our hands really develop with weight on them, and that's how we learn our fine motor skills and handwriting and all those things. So. When I used to work in the school system, we're like, that's one of the first questions we ask parents going, did they spend a lot of time on their tummy? And usually the answer is no. So we teach parents. It's really a fun part of our job.
Babies don't come with instructions, do they?
No, they don't.
There's tons of books, but who has time to read them?
So I mean, parents don't necessarily know what to look for. How do you get referrals from parents or from a pediatrician? How does that work?
Well, if a child goes into a pediatrician, the pediatrician might notice some of these things. Then the pediatrician would say to the parents, hopefully they'd give a CHD card and say, this is for early intervention, please give them a call so they can take a peek at your child and evaluate.
The pediatrician will give the parent
Sometimes,
the CHD card?
Yes, we hope, or refer them to other early intervention. And then they'll, like I said before, they'll bring the children. First, the parent will give a call to our office and gather up information about the child, set up a time for a screening, and a team member will go out and get all more information. And then the team, in order to evaluate, they go out and they evaluate. It's a whole series, and they'll evaluate the child. Then they'll come back and they'll notify the parent that day that the child qualifies, and then they will come back to the office and somebody will be assigned to the child. Either a developmental specialist or service coordinator. Every child will have a service coordinator, and it might have different, like I'm a developmental specialist service coordinator, so my job would be just to, as a developmental specialist, to kind of be guiding them with developmental goals and so on that they need to progress. And Cindy might come on as the OT because I need occupational therapists with me too.
All right. Well, what's the protocol for an evaluation? What specifically are you looking for?
Any problems or any things that they're delayed in, and if a child, like maybe the cry or just simple questions that are asked. Right, milestones are asked. Certain questions are asked. Does your baby sleep all night? Are they drinking from the bottle? Are they being breastfed? And we just gather all that kind of information.
All right, we're hearing a lot about autism these days. What should a parent do? What's their next steps if they suspect autism may be happening?
Well, a parent can do a self-referral or a pediatrician, so they'd call the office to set up a evaluation, and the team would come out. If they're not involved in early intervention, all our pediatricians should be doing an 18-month, it's called an MCHAT, so it's a modified child checklist, and it talks about, does your baby make eye contact? Do they point to what they want? Do they gesture for things that they want? Are they able to say, words? Do they put two words together? So the pediatrician should automatically do that at certain points in the child's early development. And then if we suspect it after seeing the child and the parents mention their concerns, then what we'll do is we'll put in an evaluation and ask for a developmental specialist to see the child, and we refer out, and then they do the evaluation, and if they come back with the diagnosis of autism, then we help the parents set up services and look at the different areas that we can help them with that.
There are too many diagnoses of autism these days. We're just hearing about it. It's just happening too frequently.
Appropriate diagnosis. I think early education, more of us are talking about it. April is Autism Awareness Month, so I think the more people that know the red flags of autism and refer to their pediatricians or call any of the early intervention teams to come out and do an evaluation, the sooner the services, it's amazing the progress that these kids are making. So.
All right, we're going to get a little bit more into that aspect of the conversation. We'll continue our conversation on early childhood intervention services when we come back to 22 News in Focus. Welcome back to 22 News in Focus. We are continuing our conversation about the early intervention program for children offered through the Center for Human Development. We are speaking with early intervention program supervisors Cindy Napoli and Karen Wheeler, a developmental specialist and service coordinator. We were talking about autism and the frequency with which, or you were talking about more education about autism so parents can recognize it. When you see through an evaluation, feel that you are seeing symptoms of autism, what is your next steps in that instance? How do you talk to a parent about something like that?
Well, I think we wouldn't initially just say, oh, you know, we have these concerns. We initially would want to work with the child for a little bit, because we do notes to the parents if they're not, you know, available, if grandma's taking care of them or in daycare, and it will provide information that we see, or if a parent is right before us or calls, they might say, you know, do you see any signs of autism? And our answers are usually, well, we can't diagnose. And we're, you know, just beginning to work with the child. But in order to weigh that out in your mind, turning it over to the parent, that we can certainly do a referral, and you can see there if there is anything that would really bring up autism. And so we will help the parent with the referral. We'll do the referral, but we'll talk about it if they choose to. Sometimes they'll say, well, we'll wait a while. Sometimes they'll say, you know, I've been thinking about this a long time, and so let's just go ahead and refer.
If they say they'll wait a while and you see an immediate need, what's your plan of action?
We have to respect the parent at that point. We definitely have to respect them in what they're feeling, and we will just work as hard as we can. And myself as a service coordinator, I will call in as many people to put on the team that I can to help this little youngster, so that the parents will see that we are doing as much as we can for that child. And then, you know, you may also say to the parent that we need some more help. We need another outside person, a professional, to give us more things that we can work on, more indication of where we're going and so on. And they eventually come around. Yeah. They really do.
The nice thing about early intervention is we don't only work with the child, it's really about focusing on the family. And if the family needs more support, you know, we're gentle with them. We don't force our opinions, and like Karen said, we don't diagnose a child. So if we see certain symptoms and they all kind of add up, you know, we just have gentle conversations of, you know, what do you think, and do you see progress, and, you know, what does your pediatrician think? So we always try to throw it back to...
You're guiding them.
We're guiding them, yeah. And then in the case if they choose not to, because it's their right, you know, early intervention is not a mandated service. Right. It's something that parents want to participate in. We'll have open conversations, but one of the very special things that we do, and I think it's really special with early intervention, is we transition our children into the public schools. So at the age of 3, they no longer get early intervention services. So around 30 months, we make our referral to the school system. And that's why it's so important for us to make good notes and good referrals, so that the school is aware of what's going on.
There's some continuity between your intervention and when they start preschool.
Definitely.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's really a nice, probably one of our best parts of early intervention is we get to see them become successful members of community and participate.
It's a rewarding part of your job.
It's very rewarding.
Yeah.
And as we refer them to the public school, we explain to the parent that they're referred now, and then you'll be getting notified of a time that, you know, you're going to go in and they're going to be first they're going to go in and get a lot of general information, and then they're going to go in and be tested, and then we'll get the results. And we guide them and we go through all those processes with them. They're very surprised that yes, they're here for the testing and they're here at the end result. And then we will help them into the school, and at 3, they're done with us.
Well, let's talk about the time when you're working with them, shall
Okay.
we?
Yeah.
How do parents pay for early intervention? Is it out of pocket? Is there health insurance? Is there school support funding? How does that work?
No, health insurance pays for it, and there are certain cases where certain insurances won't reimburse for early intervention. So we're really blessed in Massachusetts that the Department of Public Health, DPH, will cover the expenses. So, you know, if they go to outpatient clinics, sometimes you have to pay a $20 or $40 copay every time you go. But with us, there's no copayment involved. You know, the state of Massachusetts really recognizes that, and it's a beautiful part of our job is we don't have to collect money or worry about costs, and you know, we just educate the parents on the good services.
Sounds like you really like working at the Center for Human
we
Development.
We
Yes,
love it.
Love it. We do.
One of the things Karen and I, well, Karen runs 2 play groups, but we get to run one play group together, and it's all about fun, and it's
It's a
our
lot of
baby
fun.
play group. We call it our movers and shakers, and we have movement and music and teaching parents that it's okay for kids to get messy during feeding time, because that's one of my specialties is feeding, and it can either go to like babies who can't eat, you know, we'll work on the feeding program, but our toddlers, we get a lot of kids that don't like to get messy. They don't like to try different foods, and so we just bring it down to the play level, and we literally will play with food. It's a great day.
And you see so much growth in them and in the
Yeah.
parents too,
Yeah.
that they're not afraid to give their children a variety of foods.
So you're playing with food, but it's in itself a form of therapy.
Oh,
absolutely.
Yeah,
Yes,
we do different
absolutely.
colors. You know, it's so funny because so many people are so busy nowadays, and you know, we try to just get parents to slow down, and we just say, eat one meal a day with your kids and let them see and eat the same things that they're eating. We can't use certain words when we're in our play group. We don't use yuck. We don't use, you know, I don't like this, and we really try to make food part of a very playful and happy experience.
So April, as you mentioned a little while ago, is Occupational Therapy Month. So I know what speech therapy is. Explain a little bit about what occupational therapy is.
So occupational therapy runs the gamut from birth to geriatrics, and in early intervention we work on kids who either have feeding problems or developmental delays. So we'll work with babies who don't have their motor milestones yet. We'll work with older kids if they need help with dressing or toileting or bedtime routines. We do a lot around routines, and just try to do it with play. You know, that's the best part of our job is we get to play with the kids and show the families how to play with the kids. And
So toilet training is part of this occupational therapy.
it can be. It can be if parents have questions for it. You know, 2.5 is the typical child is ready to be toilet trained, but you have to have all your body parts working and your cognition and things like that. So a lot of our kids aren't usually toilet trained by 3, but we'll give parents different strategies and different supports to help work with them.
And you know, we're developmentally getting them ready for the public school. And if there wasn't early intervention, the public school would be bombed with all these kids that, you know, we have prepared for them and they're ready to go. But without the help of early intervention, you might not identify or see any of these weaknesses until age 5 after they enter into a kindergarten program.
Right.
And then that makes it difficult for, you know, the school, for the state financially, and so on. So we're identifying early and moving them in, and our success rate is great with these children.
A lot of people are benefiting from your services.
yeah,
the
definitely.
teachers, the parents, and these kids who are
All these kids, yeah.
developing nicely.
Yes.
And hopefully the community. I mean, that's your whole hope is that, you know, they're going to become active, involved members of our community, and we're just getting them off to a good head start.
The services that you provide, are they provided at CHD or are home visits involved? How does this work?
Both. More so out in the homes or the daycare. So we go, you know, in, we carry bags of toys and so on to play with the children or play with what they have in the home. And so it can be, you know, a variety of places, but for the majority it's the homes in their natural environment. That's what we're supposed to be doing, is providing for these children in their natural environment.
All right, we just have a little bit of time. I want to ask you, what advice do you have for parents who may suspect that their infant or toddler may be experiencing developmental delays?
Yeah, well, some parents don't know what a typical developmental delay would be. So some of the websites out there are phenomenal. The CDC .gov website is, or .org I think it is, website will actually have videos of what different milestones look like. But if there any suspicion that their child is delayed, if they're not, putting 2 words together by, 12 months, or if they're having a lot of difficulty with tantrums and behavior and things like that, just give us a call, and we can set up an evaluation and bring the team out, and hopefully help out if it's needed.
Well, I learned something today, and I hope people out here also did as well. Cindy and Karen, thank you very much for being with us and participating in this conversation today.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
When we return, we will be discussing support programs for cancer patients and their caregivers. You're watching 22 News in Focus. And welcome back. You're watching 22 News in Focus, and today we're talking about programs offered by the Center for Human Development. Thousands of people in Western Massachusetts are diagnosed with various forms and stages of cancer every year. The Center for Human Development's Cancer House of Hope provides access to free services and therapies that can bring comfort, care, support, and hope to patients with cancer, and hope to also their loved ones. Joining me now to discuss these programs, we have Joe Kane, Program Manager for the Cancer House of Hope, and Nancy Greenwood, a Reiki Master who has worked with the House since 1995. Thank you both for being here today. First of all, let's start off with the basics. What is Cancer House of Hope?
So we're a CHD program located in West Springfield, and we provide free services to people affected by cancer. So that includes those who are recently diagnosed, as well as longer-term survivors, as well as their family, friends, and caregivers. So we provide integrative therapies, and
we're going to get a little bit into that.
Okay, sure.
Physically, you're in West Springfield.
Yep.
Have I seen it as I drive by on Route 20?
Yeah, we're right on Route 20. If you're familiar with West Springfield, we're right near Mitteney Park.
Yeah, on the way to Westfield.
Yeah, yep, exactly.
Right. How did it start? How did Cancer House of Hope start?
Oh, go ahead, Nancy.
Nancy, what do you think?
Well, it was started by a woman who had had breast cancer, and she found that the support that she needed was not available. And she decided that she was doggone it, she was going to have it available for other women. And she got a grant, and she looked into having a support house. And she called it the Center of Hope at that time in Westfield. And it took off like a bullet.
How about that? There's a need.
Yes, yeah. It's done very, very well.
That was in 1997, so it's been 20 years.
How about that?
Yeah.
Just a little bit more.
Yeah.
And it keeps on going. What types of services are available at the Cancer House of Hope? What are we doing to help whoever needs your services?
So we have support groups, we have massage therapy, we have Reiki, yoga, we also offer wigs, and we have mastectomy bras and forms.
All right, we're going to talk about some of those appliances. And then, but since you mentioned Reiki, and you're a Reiki master, it says here, tell me a little bit about that therapy, about Reiki.
Reiki is an ancient Japanese form of natural healing. It's almost hands-on. We transfer
almost
energy.
hands-on. So this is not massage.
No. This is non-invasive. So we don't necessarily have to touch anyone. It's extremely relaxing, and if the body can relax, the body can heal. And if the body can relax, it allows the medicines that the doctors are giving people to do their job, because they're not fighting it. They're able to eat better sometimes.
I'm personally very interested in this. I've heard of it, of course. Not everybody has.
Right.
And some people may be skeptical. You're talking about doing good for people without touching them.
Right.
And we're not talking about a mental state, but you are talking about getting them to relax. Are you interacting with their personal energy? I mean, I think I've heard something along those lines.
Yes.
How does that work?
If you were
it almost sounds magical.
I know. It does, but it's not.
Okay.
If you were to rub your hands together really hard and then open them up just a tad, just a little bit, you can feel something in there. And if you open them a little bit farther,
Let me try this.
yep, just open them a little bit.
All right.
Can you feel it? If
I don't know if I rubbed long enough.
you had them open too far, just a little bit like that.
All right.
Now try it.
A couple of millimeters.
Yes.
There is something.
And then open it a little bit more. And now press.
Oh, I am feeling
Feel
that.
it?
Yeah.
That's what I heal with. That's the energy. And
As I go closer, there's a little bit of resistance.
that's right.
And there's nothing there.
That's right.
How about that?
So anybody can do Reiki. Most people who have had children are automatically healers. You pick up your child who's crying, and you hold them to you, and they stop crying. You've comforted them. You've automatically sent energy to them, and they're comfortable and they trust you. And that's what we do.
Well, yeah, tell me how this applies to the Cancer House of Hope and how you can help patients and family members as well.
Yes.
With this sort of therapy.
Yes, I've been with the Cancer House since they opened a long time ago. And I've had people come in crying and they leave laughing. They have various degrees of cancer. I have them lay on a table. It looks like a massage table.
Yeah, right.
They lay on their back, and I put pillow under their knees and cover them with a blanket and another pillow under their head. And then I talk to them for a little bit, and then I start to transfer energy. I brush them down. You can feel it. It's interesting. And they begin to relax. And some people fall asleep. I've had people say, "Oh, how long do I have to lay there? I can't lay there very long. If you get uncomfortable, you tell me, and I'll stop, and you can sit up. If you fall asleep, I'll wake you up." I have never had anybody stop me. I've had many people fall asleep.
So is this now something that helps people who are, say, in chemo, someone who has finished their protocols, or someone who's just been diagnosed? How does this help people?
all
like
of
that?
the above.
And I think I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I think what we try to do, Barry, too, is we try to have a safe, healing place that people can come to. It's in a home-like setting, and so when you're diagnosed with cancer, or when your loved one is diagnosed with cancer, suddenly there are a million things that go through your mind. What's going to happen? What's next? Am I going to live? Am I going to die? Am I going to be able to work? And so this is an opportunity to slow down for a minute and to use the different services that we have to be able to relax and take a minute for yourself, and to be able to just recharge, regroup, find that energy, whether you believe it's coming from the Reiki master, or whether it's coming from the yoga, or whether it's the relaxation of the massage. It's just a chance for you to be able to find yourself in all of that stuff that's going around you at a mile a minute.
Right, to be going through cancer diagnosis and then the protocols for healing and health.
Sure.
Very daunting, depressing even. I'm sorry, somebody's phone is going off.
It's a very traumatic time for people.
Yes.
You know. Yeah.
So and what you're saying is that you help mitigate these anxieties that people go through. And actually, we're going to talk about this a little bit more in just a moment. Talk about how you help people heal in just a moment. So we'll talk about the types of programs there are for caregivers and loved ones of cancer patients. We'll find out next after the break. And welcome back to 22 News in Focus. We're talking about the Center for Human Development's Cancer House of Hope. We are speaking with Joe Kane, the Cancer House of Hope Program Manager, and Reiki Master Nancy Greenwood. Now, cancer impacts not just patients, but their family and friends and co-workers as well. It can be incredibly stressful for someone to get a cancer diagnosis, and someone you love has an illness like this, and they may not be able to, in many instances, deal with the change of family dynamics. Can you talk about that, address the change in family dynamics, about what happens when someone you love has a cancer diagnosis?
Sure, there's a lot that can go on there.
I mean, do relationships actually change?
They can. I mean, sometimes it's going to affect the family financially in terms of whether or not the person who's diagnosed is going to be able to continue working, how much they're going to be able to continue working. There's any number of emotions that suddenly come into play. There's fear, there's guilt. You know, people just have trouble figuring out how to work through that, and that's where some of the support groups come in. So different types of support groups, not only for the person going through the cancer themselves who has been given the diagnosis, but also caregiver support groups, family and friends support groups. Just a chance for
I'm wondering how many different support groups you have. Are there different support groups for different types of cancers, or is it just all patients can come to the same support group? Because they're all, are they dealing with the same sort of issues?
We have a support group specifically for breast cancer patients, and then historically we've had an all-cancer support group for people with any type of cancer. I say historically because we're currently looking for a facilitator to that, but there are other all-cancer support groups out there that we'll refer people to.
Tell me about the family support groups. How does that work? Does that include the patient, or is that something separate?
Usually it's something separate, although the patient can come along, but a lot of times it's better for just the family members to come, because then they tend to feel like they can talk more freely.
Right, right. You talked about people worried about getting back to work, people worrying about paying for their services. Is there a charge for these services?
No, we offer all of our services free of charge. We don't bill insurance, we don't ask for referrals. We don't do any sort of income check or anything like that. If you walk through the door and your loved one has cancer, then you're eligible for our services.
So how is the Cancer House of Hope funded?
We're 100% community funded, and so we...
and it's been going on for almost 21 years.
Yes. And so we do that through grants, through individual donations, through corporate sponsorships, and also through a couple of major fundraisers that we have every year. We have a golf tournament coming up.
I think we've covered some of your fundraisers.
Yeah, I think you have.
Yeah.
And we have our Luminary event in the fall, and we also have the support of CHD behind us. So that's been a big help as well.
No, that's great. Do cancer patients and their caregivers face any type of stigma that you know about? Is there a stigma attached to having cancer? I mean, people are fearful of anything that's out of the ordinary. And if you're a healthy person, is there some different way that you're going to be looking at someone who has a cancer diagnosis, or people that take care of them?
I don't find that to be so anymore. When I first started doing Reiki 20 years ago, I think there was a little bit of a stigma, especially if a woman was bald. But now there has been so much support from family and friends that a lot of times friends will go and get their head shaved.
I've seen that.
To support their family or friend, you know. They have hats now that look like a baseball cap, and they have hair stitched on from here all the way around in the back. You would never ever know that they were bald. So they've come out with some wonderful, wonderful things, and I don't find that stigma anymore. Do you, Joe?
I don't. And I think a lot of that has to do with the progress that's been made with cancer treatment.
Yeah.
You know, I think when I was a kid, you were diagnosed with cancer, you didn't really talk about it.
Right, you had to whisper the word, right?
Right.
I remember that.
Yeah.
And it's funny, I spoke at a class recently at one of the local colleges about what we do, and the class was a class about chronic diseases. And to be in a place where cancer was being spoken of as a chronic disease was really just kind of mind-blowing for me, because, you know, when I was a kid, it wasn't, you know, there was no cure. It was,
right.
You know, you got cancer, and that was, you know.
And there was a lot more hope associated with
Right.
finding a cure for different cancers these days as well.
Exactly.
And a lot of work has been going on.
There's a lot more successes too.
Yeah.
A lot.
We're loving to hear about that.
Yeah,
too.
it's wonderful.
Yeah. You talked about one of these hats that had a little bit of hair attached to it, and baldness is a problem if people want to do it that way. I mean, nobody really wants to lose their hair.
Right.
So what are some of the other appliances that people can use to mitigate that problem for them?
Well, we have little bangs that will fit under a hat. So if you're a skier and you can go skiing, and you'll put on one of those caps.
Ski cap.
There's little bangs that you can put up underneath there. Nobody would know that you were bald. You know, it's great. And there's all kinds. Name it. There's all kinds of stuff available now.
I mean, we talk about wigs and weaves and such like that. In a way, baldness is almost a fashion statement these days, or it is a fashion statement.
It is. Yep.
But we do have a full-service wig boutique at the Cancer House of Hope.
Okay.
And that's staffed by 3 retired cosmetologists. And so they'll spend like an hour with somebody, giving them a full styling. So they'll take one of our wigs and really make sure it fits someone. And you know, when the person leaves, you won't know they're wearing the wig. So it's really a great experience.
And she teaches them how to take care of it, and you know, all the stuff that goes with a wig that they would need to know.
Now that's I know that's an expensive item, or it can be. Is this something that's included with the services you provide?
Yeah, we've been fortunate to get, well, to have a very passionate person involved with having the vision for the wig boutique and for getting a lot of the wigs that we have donated to us. So for example, if a local place that sells wigs is discontinuing one of their lines, then she's actively solicited them to donate that line to us. You know, things like that to get us these materials, this inventory donated to us so that we can continue to offer these for free to people.
I noticed you laughed when you talked about this very passionate person.
She's wonderful. She really is.
When you're involved in this sort of activity, it attracts a certain kind of people who really want to help.
That's right. That's right. And so many people say, "Oh, I don't think I want to go there. I can't stand a lot of drama." There isn't any.
Or sadness.
That's right. And there isn't any. People that come in there, we laugh, we raise the dickens. It's a fun place to be, you know, and if you can come in really sad sometime, whoever is sitting there will talk with them, and they end up leaving happy, smiling, with a book.
What about exercise? Some people don't feel well enough to engage in physical activity. How important is it to remain active and just go for maybe even a 15 or a 10-minute walk? How important is that?
I mean, it's all what the person feels up to. The yoga that we do have yoga a couple of days a week at the Cancer House of Hope. It's very beginner oriented, very low impact. Our yoga instructor has been there for 15 years, so she's very much a part of the house as well, and she has also done a few classes on weekends where she'll take people out walking. So the idea just to get people up and moving, like you were saying, Barry, just to, you know, try to get people moving. Maybe you don't want to go to the gym, or maybe you don't want to do any strenuous exercise, but the idea just to try to keep moving.
I want to talk a little bit more about yoga and stretching when we come back in just a moment. We will continue our conversation right after the break. You're watching 22 News in Focus. And welcome back. You're watching 22 News in Focus, talking about the programs and services offered through the Cancer House of Hope for cancer patients and caregivers. We talked about how the Cancer House of Hope is funded through donations and through grants and such like that. What are some of the challenges that you face, financial challenges that you face at the Cancer House of Hope, or other challenges?
Well, I think financially it's
there's got to be constant pressure, I mean, to fund this. I mean, you provide a myriad services, and this is a constant need, I imagine, for cash. And you can't really be involved in concentrating on fundraising all the time, but it's always out there.
It is always out there, and here in Western Mass, you know, all of the nonprofits do great work. You know, but there's a lot of us out there, and we're all essentially competing for the same pool of money. So, you know, it is a little bit of a challenge in that way, but we've been very fortunate that, you know, our funders are always willing to step up to the plate and keep coming back, believe in the work that we do, and are very, very generous. You know, in difficult financial times and in good financial times. So I you know, feel really good about that, and it's one of the most inspirational parts of the job is that people are just willing to keep giving.
I got to think that inspiration plays a big role in what you do every day. Nancy, as a Reiki master and as someone that's providing comfort to people who are ill.
It's an awfully good feeling.
I wanted to know if there are any plans to expand or add additional services for the Cancer House of Hope. Cancer House of Hope. Is there more that you can do? I mean, it seems to me you're doing quite a bit. But what are your future plans?
Yeah, we've you know, we've talked about different ways that we could expand. So we're in West Springfield, and so you know, we're the only service of our type in Hampden County. And so that can pose a challenge for people.
Franklin County or Berkshire County?
Or even on what I call this side of the river.
Oh, okay.
You know, people aren't always willing to come across the river for services. And, you know, we're right on a bus route, but to get there from Springfield or from,
or even Palmer or Wilbraham or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, you're talking about a pretty long bus drive when, you know, you're going through chemo or an illness or anything like that. It's not an easy trip. So we've been looking at different community partners to potentially bring some services into Springfield or into Wilbraham or closer.
Maybe a Cancer House of Hope East, something like that?
Yeah, or even just, you know, some space where we could bring some of our services out this way. You know, we also, most of the people we see are over the age of 21, so looking possibly to bring services to younger people. We just had a sweet little 7-year-old girl come in for a wig, and so, you know, there's obviously a need for that type of service for that age, so that's something we're looking at too. Nutrition services are services that we've talked about providing. So we've got some different things we're looking at that we're hoping to be able to bring about with the proper funding and with the right community partners.
So Nancy, you were telling me a little bit about I guess language can get involved in here. We talk about alternative services, and what you do, Reiki, isn't necessarily an alternative service, but some of the doctors were bothered by the alternative therapies.
Right.
Address that a little bit about how that became a problem.
Well, a lot of the doctors weren't happy with what their clients were doing. That's not the doctors talking, but that's the clients talking. And so down the road, we changed that to complementary healing.
As opposed to alternative therapy.
Yeah, and it changed a lot of people's focus was now on this is helping not only my body, but it's helping the medication do what it needs to do. And the doctors were very much for that, and we you know, it was a good thing. It was a very good thing. And we had a doctor on the board, Dr. Glenn. He's not on it anymore, is he? Is he?
Yeah.
He is? Dr. Glenn.
He'll be happy to hear that.
I know. Thanks, Dr. Glenn. He's a sweetheart. He recommends people to come in
as
to
you
the
say,
house.
complementary
Yeah.
therapies.
Yep.
I imagine the numbers may be different, but how many people do you think you serve each year?
Oh, gee,
What you do?
a lot.
Yeah, I can tell you because I have to tell the grant funders. So we see roughly 500 individuals, new people coming through the door every year, and provide.
That's in addition to people already in process.
Yeah, so we provide around 1,500 to 1,700 services to those people coming through the doors every year.
And do you have enough services, enough time available to deal with and welcome all the people who do come to you for services?
We do. We got about a 6-week wait for massage services, about a 3-week wait for Reiki. So a little bit of a wait time to get in, but we're generally able to accommodate people.
What kind of feedback do you get from your clients? What do you hear, Nancy?
Oh, they love it. I have 2 people that call themselves Reiki addicts. Yeah, they'll call up and say, "Do we have anything open today?" "No, call me if you find one." So yeah.
You're on the cancellation list.
Right. Yeah. Oh gosh, yes, we all do.
Probably.
Yeah, it's wonderful.
What do you hear, Joe?
I hear very positive feedback that it's
I got to think you do.
yeah, that it helps with the healing process, and that it really it gives people that safe place to come, and that
And that's important for cancer
Yeah.
patients to know that that exists.
Right.
And that you provide that, and it's there.
yeah.
And it helps the families to know how much better their loved one is feeling, and then the whole family relaxes. It becomes a family healing. It's really great.
It really is, and unfortunately there's no shortage of patients because it's always happening. People are always being diagnosed, but it's comforting for everyone else to know that you're there. You guys are always there. You spoke about some of your fundraising events. Do you have any public events coming up?
We have our golf tournament coming up May 21st. That's our biggest fundraiser of the year. And we always have a full field, so we have a waiting list now for golfers, but we're still looking for area businesses. If they want to donate a raffle prize or if they want to do a sponsorship, they can certainly give us a call.
There's plenty of opportunities for donation.
Absolutely. We have our Luminary event in the fall, and that's another opportunity for donation.
And we've covered that. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah,
to
it's a
see
very
at
nice
night.
event. Yep,
It's all
over at
about-
Storyton Village. Just really pretty with the candles and.
Well, we're talking about you're having a golf tournament. How do people get involved? How do people find you? What would they do? Do you have a website?
Yeah, they can find us on the CHD website, so it's chd.org and then /Cancer House of Hope, or just search the CHD website. There's a way to sign up to volunteer online. We're always looking for volunteers, certainly, or they can donate, and they can give us a call at the house as well.
All right, and I will mention that on our website, once this program goes onto our website, we will provide a link to your place through wwlp.com as well.
Great.
All right. Thank you for joining us this afternoon.
Thanks for having
This
us.
was great. I learned a lot.
Good.
Thanks, Barry.
All right, and we will have one last word for you after the break. Stay with us. You're watching 22 News in Focus. Welcome back. You've been watching 22 News in Focus. We've been talking about 2 programs offered by the Center for Human Development today, Cancer House of Hope and Early Intervention Services for Children. We want to thank our guests for joining us today and telling us so much about what goes on at the Center for Human Development, and thank you for watching. If you miss any of it, you can watch it in full on our website at wwlp.com, as well as ways to contact the Center for Human Development. From here at 22 News, we wish you a wonderful Sunday.